name is Randy Herrera, and I have the pleasure of serving on Prosci's executive team as our Executive Vice President for Global Growth. I lead our teams as we work to understand our customers' needs and then to develop and deliver holistic solutions towards change success. At our center, Prosci is a research organization and a leader in the change management and change success arena. Our research, and likely your experience, shows that change is ever present, happening more rapidly, and producing results that are more expansive than we've ever seen before. The need for effective and efficient change management is clear. Additionally, we've been learning that change management is quite applicable in a global business services or a shared services center environment. First, as your organization move towards your current state of doing business, and they establish a shared services center, you're going to need change management to manage that move from the current state to the future state. Additionally, we've learned that many shared services centers are now being asked to provide change management expertise as a service they provide to the organization. You have two really great experts from within the Prosci family today to help lead this session. Our partner in India, Marg, and our partner in Poland, Silfra, are right at the center of this growing applicability of change management in a shared services center environment. You also are going to hear from experts within industry, from Diageo and Philip Morris, on how they're applying change management and how they see it in their environments. Prosci's vision is to become the go-to partner globally for change success. As leaders in your organization and driving change management within a shared services environment, you have the ability to drive change success for your companies. Thank you so much for attending today, and have a great webinar.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. We would request you to scan this on top, which you are seeing the QR code on top, or join the web at polev.com/marktransform and drop the pin to where you are coming from or where you are calling in. Please do that as the other participants join in, and we give a couple of minutes to start the webinar. Hi, I'm Sudeshna Basuroy from Marg, India. A big welcome to all of you from the shared services and global business services world across the globe. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. This journey of shared service centers have been so incredible, starting from one country, moving offshore, and then becoming centers of excellence, expertise, and efficiency. Moving offshore in the beginning may have been purely in terms of cost consideration, but customer centricity have always been the prime focus. So soon, the GBSs found themselves becoming prime talent hubs and hence exponentially contributing to the rest of the organization in value. Today, we see shared service and global business service centers. Their key initiatives are contributing to the business critical processes of the main entity. The remarkable part is, though the GBSs start with transition, that's the genesis of your formation, but every day, transformation, innovating, and reinventing yourself, that's also a challenge for this industry. As Prosci, we understand that challenge, and hence the reason or the purpose of this specially curated webinar for you, where we will try to enable you to develop the change capability in your organizations. Prosci are world leaders in change management. The unique aspect of Prosci is that we bring you solutions which are research-based and best practices for managing the change. Our solutions are holistic, affecting every aspect of the organization, every level of the organization. They are easy to use if organization has the intent to make that change. India and Poland have been recognized as the two of the top 10 preferred locations for setting up shared service centers and global business centers. And hence, Prosci partners in Poland, Silfra Consulting, and Prosci partner in India, Mark Business Transformation brings you this webinar. But do remember, there is a Prosci, and the Prosci affiliate network is present in every country across the world. The webinar, I will now introduce the fellow speakers, and then in the last 10 minutes of the webinar, we shall answer any question any of you have. But please do use the Q&A tab to put your questions, and we shall take them up. In case we miss any of your questions, be rest assured that we shall get back to you. So without much ado, I start with introducing our speakers. Our first speaker, Gurmeet. Gurmeet is the GBO head of change management, transformation, and continuous improvement of the AGO Business Services. He's certified as a Six Sigma Master Belt, Master Black Belt, and Lean, and is also a Prosci change management practitioner. He has an amazing track record of successfully leading transitions, programs, change management, operating model design and deployment, operation excellence, and transformations. And now I think most of his work is with AI ML adoption, robotic process automation, workforce management tools and analytics to create client value and business impact. He also loves poetry and traveling. Welcome, Gurmeet.
Thank you, Sudeshna, and hello, everybody. Pleasure to be here with you all.
Our next speaker is Carolina. Carolina is the manager, change activation at Philip Morris Service Center, Central Europe. She's a Prosci change management practitioner and is involved in leading finance transformation projects like RPA, automation, business process outsourcing, post-merger, merger and integration, and plays a global role in that. She plays a very key role in bringing the project and the change teams together to create impact on the business. She is a globetrotter and also a huge volunteer to charity purposes. So welcome, Carolina.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. Looking forward for this session.
Thank you, both of you, for joining us today. Now we turn to our Prosci experts. Christoph. Christoph is the CEO of Silfra Consulting, the Prosci partner in Central Europe. He's the Prosci advanced instructor and has already certified more than 1,500 practitioners. He's involved in consulting, and his experience is across change management, program management, project management, and business transformation across various types of industries like construction, utilities, state-owned enterprises, and of course, shared services. He is the founding member of ACMP and also PMI in Poland. And he is a dog lover and he loves diving. That's for sure. Welcome, Christoph.
Thank you very much, Sudeshna. Welcome, everyone. Great to be with you today.
Then we are turning to Krish now. So Krish is currently the director of Mark Business Transformation, the Prosci partner of India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Maldives. His experience in the industry as a leader in finance, HR, and operations across various types of industries like IT, IES, manufacturing, and GBS. He's also a Prosci advanced instructor and has recently completed his 100th workshop certifying practitioners. He's a CCMP, also issued by ACMP. He leverages his global experience across various domains, and his expertise is mostly in implementing large change management projects and culture change. He loves reading and traveling. Welcome, Krish.
Thank you, Sudeshna. I also love love pulling people's legs, so I'm hoping I'll get a chance to do that the next 1 hour or so.
Yeah, we have audience here. Thank you. Yes. So moving before asking the first question, we'll try to understand whom we are speaking to today a little more. So audience, one more poll for you. If you can go to pollev.com/marktransform or scan the QR code. Is the slide coming up for us? For the poll EB2?
It's not coming up, Sudeshna, so I'm unable to share it. Yeah.
Okay, so so everybody who's present in the webinar, why don't you put in your chat windows that what is your role in the GBS or the SSC space? Which role do you inhabit in your organization currently? Are you a leader? Are you a project manager? Are you a people manager, subject matter expert, HR, or anybody else? So please put in your roles in the chat window so that it helps us know where you are coming from. So as people are putting it in the chat windows, we are actually getting them on the Q&A. So we are having people across the board who has joined this webinar. Without much ado, let's go to the first question. Gurmeet, the first question is for you. Since we are talking about GBS, how do you describe the current landscape of GBS in this world post-pandemic with all this digitalization and sustainability efforts which we are taking up?
Okay. Yeah, I think, see, what happened that COVID kind of disrupted not only just the workspaces, but also the workforce, and it all got distributed across the world for all organizations, right? Be it GBSs or be it even the third-party providers, this disruption was a big one. Then on top of that, I think in the current volatility and the VUCA environment, the supply and demand chains have been significantly disrupted across the world, right? So there is a lot of disruption that is already happening. And this disruption is actually requiring all organizations, all enterprises to be very, very focused to deliver custom, integrated, and digital solutions at the edge for their consumers and customers, right? And on top of that, the ESG agenda is now expecting the GBS, the Global Shared Services Centers, GCCs, to be the front runners in aggregating, collating, tracking, and reporting the ESG metrics and the data, because these processes are now being managed by the GCCs and the GBS organizations across all the enterprises, right? So they are the core engines today that run the enterprise, right? Because all processes now sit with GBSs and GCCs, and hence they kind of run the enterprise. So there is an expectation that they will support this big agenda and the momentum that's building around ESG reporting and the metrics there, right? So there's a huge amount of volatility, uncertainty, and then there's a lot of change that's going on, right? So the leaders in the GBSs and GCCs are at that point where they just now need to leapfrog from the capability that they build to be able to manage this change. So I think change management has become one of the most significant aspects of GBS leadership across all GBS organizations. And that's how I think this environment is playing out for all the GCCs and GBS organizations across the world. So Deshna, you're on mute, I think.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for that great insight, Gurmeet. And understanding this landscape, Carolina, the next question is for you. Is in your industry, what kind of changes are you seeing the most going on?
Definitely. So in 2016, Philip Morris announced the commitment to delivering the smoke-free future, right? So it was quite some ago, and we are pursuing that path. This means, of course, the change in product portfolio, but also how we deliver it, right? And while the business is transforming, our shared service center is transforming too. And that's why GBS program was initiated in April 2022 to capture the synergies beyond the individual functions, right?
Right.
So the GBS program team was focused more on designing and piloting cross-functional standards and frameworks, designing the GBS vision and target operating model. But above all that, from the change management perspective, what can I mention also is that in shared service center, we were more function orientated if it comes to capabilities and allocating these capabilities. So I can give you an example of finance where, for instance, I was leading a team of change leaders at a certain stage, and we were supporting the most important, from finance perspective, projects there, enabling these capabilities from the enabling team exactly. While now in GBS, when we lately transformed, the setup is a little bit different because right now change management become a capability as a service. So right now we have a little bit more, let's say, exposure on the market and the business as well as GBS needs, right? So from the change side, again, I think it's a great value that can be brought both to the market and to the GBS.
Thank you for that. So with that, I kind of like, my the next question is flowing into that as well, is that we are seeing the environment demanding at one end, and we are seeing your shared services transforming themselves also and reinventing themselves. So in this context, what are capabilities? Change is coming up, no doubt, as one of the big things which are happening. But other than that, with technology and ESG as well coming up in so much big size and shape. So Gurmeet, what are capabilities you are looking to build, or which are the leadership considering very critical for SSC GBS?
Yeah. So I'll add a little bit of a very complex nuance that's also shaping up as the industry is changing, right? See, earlier GBSs operated with their own culture. If you were to go to a GBS center of an organization, it will, as they call, the smell of the place would be a culture that's very, very specific to that GBS center. But this is becoming very critical now to say that you can't have a GBS culture that's isolated from the larger organization culture there, right? It has to be the same culture with that mindset, with that same focus and centricity on the customer, consumers that the larger organization has. The GBS organizations are also supposed to be a blend of that same culture in their working environment and the way they operate and stuff like that, right? So that's a very important aspect where all major parent organizations are looking, are we operating as one culture across, and it's not like your culture is separate from there, right? And of course, with the disruption that has happened, the transformation has become a big agenda, right? Most organizations have significantly large transformation projects that needs to get done, and done in an agile and a very focused fashion, and make sure that the change gets landed without any further disruption in the way you are required to operate, right? So transformation, change management, agile, and on time, within budget, program management are becoming some of the key critical aspects that the GBS organizations are required to support, and not just support, but actually run and manage and lead them, right? So those are some of the capabilities on agile, within budget, on-time program project management, and on top of that, making sure that the change lands without any further disruption to the business in this volatility that's still ongoing. So those are key critical capabilities from my perspective that are very, very important.
I look to you, Carolina, with the same question. Okay, what are you seeing? Are you seeing something similar to what Gurmeet is saying? Yeah.
Well, definitely resonates to organization as well, Gurmeet. Thank you for that. I think the landing, what you said about landing, how the change is landing is very much important, and all these capabilities are very needed, right, to be developed to make it happen. But just to give you maybe also from my experience, hands-on, change management, hands-on perspective, imagine that our GBS right now is about 3,000 people, right? We are located in 10 places, and this multicultural aspect is there as well. But from, let's say, capabilities that are crucial for the success of any transformation that I can observe, I think in our company, we are going into two levels. And the first one is organizational one, and the second one is more individual one. And from the organizational perspective, I think business as usual is always a priority, right? So this is all the efforts we strive for getting the results there. But apart from that, we also lately mastered the project management services. And right now we are going into the direction, I think that there is a good investment in that to go to this enterprise change model. And from the individual aspect, like every employee that we have in Philip Morris in Shared Service Center, Global Services, right? I think apart from this classic skills like expertise and knowledge about the product market portfolios or this set of skills, there is also this palette of these unique assets and the capabilities, as well as the behaviors that are actually bringing us closer to the change that shall land properly. And I would say definitely embracing the challenge, the ability to navigate through the change and become comfortable in ambiguous environment lately. I think that apart from that, definitely we should go on more collaborative way, right, to get things done in an agile way. But also I would like to put an aspect of caring, that in PMI DNA we strive to care and embrace people.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So now turning to our Prosci experts. So you heard our clients in GBS talking about how, like, the capabilities they need to build, project management, agile, and they need to land their change. So in terms of change management, what do you think, how change management can play a role in building these capabilities, or how change management as a capability can help them? So Christoph, to you.
Thank you very much, Sudeshna. Yes, we can say that to build all those capabilities, it is an effort. Sometimes we say it's a project, program, or it will be a set of initiatives, but still those initiatives are investments only, and they are not paying the dividend as long as people don't adopt and use them effectively. And when we say about multicultural environment, when we say about multi-locational and time differences, when we say about constant transformation of business as usual, it means that it brings a lot of instability for people to find themselves to work effectively in those new circumstances. And sometimes I think we try to control too much how people behave in the change and try to predict how they behave, while it's not possible. People are uncontrollable and unpredictable. So maybe instead of trying to control how they act, we should focus on what we do. And I think change management is exactly focusing on what we are doing, how we are preparing the changes, how we are helping other people who are in those changes to navigate through them successfully. Because in fact, whatever you said, Gurmeet and Carolina, it's about acting faster with less effort and being able to deliver things more within the same time frame and with the same resources. So I think that's the challenge. And exactly this is how change management contributes to this, because we have some statistics. Let me, 10 times more likely you are to succeed in the change effort if your change management in the project, if your change management is good, is great. So that's really very important. And then another statistics, just about automation, which is a very difficult process sometimes, and people sometimes are afraid of. Looks like whenever automation is done properly, looks like not only customer satisfaction increases, but to the same level increases also employee engagement. So it looks like we can balance performance and people engagement. And I think role of change management in building those capabilities, it's simply maybe to fill also a little bit of a gap that project and program management methodologies still have. I can say this because I'm connected with project management for more than 20 years. And I think project management also needs to have something that will accelerate the human factor, that will enable to achieve success and will also enable to make this success sustainable. And change management brings those concepts, tools, and ideas for everyone who implements changes. So I think this is the way we can contribute.
Thank you so much. Krish, the same question.
Thank you, Sudeshna. I couldn't help but smile when Gurmeet and Carolina were speaking. They were talking very stakeholder language. I want everything. I want everything quickly. I want everything quickly with metrics. Show me the numbers, right? It's very stakeholder language, and I think Christoph also picked up on that. And I think that's the world that we live in, right? I think change management helps on all of those things. Again, you heard both Gurmeet and Carolina point out that the weight of responsibility on these centers has climbed post-pandemic, and the amount of reliance has also climbed, right? The expectations have climbed, reliance has climbed. So that there is some respect for the fact that these centers do house the best of my function, the best of my process, and I can rely upon them to take me to the next level. So that's a good obstacle to have come over. Having come over the obstacle, I think what we can now promise the organization is we understand the organization enough to perform with intelligence, with social intelligence, with organizational awareness. What Gurmeet said in terms of not having a different identity is very important, right? Because I gave you part of my process. When you're doing the process, I'm expecting you to talk my same language, but somehow your language changed once it went to your center. Why would it be different? So people would have those dissonances. And I think the first thing change management can help with is that alignment, is making sure that the global process owner and that associate and the colleague, Carolina described the individual's perspective, right? We need those two bridged, and change management can help that alignment. That's number one. The interesting thing in change management is forget change management in these centers, whether it's a shared service center or GBS, the most important people don't have the longest titles, right? They are in the system, they have lots of tenure, they have lots of experience, they don't have the biggest titles. And change management can help build that connection, that coalition amongst them and get them aligned. So that's definitely number one. I think the next thing that it can do is differentiate between who's getting impacted and who's getting affected. When you touch the process, you realize that the impact is easy to spot. Okay, this process moves here, this process starts doing this faster. When we apply technology here, this process changes. But there is a affected community, both downstream, upstream, and along with those. And change management can help you figure out who's there in that second concentric circle. That is extremely important. Not taking them into account can have impact on your implementation timelines and how you deliver. Right? So that's absolutely important. I think CM and CM capabilities can help hugely on that. The third part is measurability and metrics, right? We need numbers. We need numbers which are both during numbers and after numbers. We love in-progress numbers. We like lead indicators. Lag indicators are good, but they're only for the postmortem. We don't want to look at the PowerPoints after the event, right? During, we want to know where we go. And I think change management offers a lot in terms of stacking it up nicely. This is where the project is going. This is how people are responding. This is where they are. And this is how we're doing in terms of the plans. If we choose to, CM can give you, all three layers of that lovely track performance cake. So I think there is a value in organizations applying change management as a capability. That doesn't mean getting there is easy. Like everything, it's going to be a journey, but there is a value. Back to you, Sureshna.
Thank you for that. So we heard from the change management experts, Gurmeet and Carolina, that that so much can be done in landing the change. But when you are looking at it and when you are doing, it will translate to the SSC and the GBS world as a stack of projects which you are practicing on your hierarchy of leaders, managers, and employees. So for you, those projects have to land to them. So from that perspective, Gurmeet, how do you think change management can be used by leaders to land these projects into the GBS world?
I think that's a very, very important and a very relevant and pertinent question, Sudeshna. See, all transformation projects touch a couple of aspects of transformation, right? It touches the process, it touches the technology, it touches policies, which sometimes people don't think are important because policies run the processes, right? So people kind of forget that I will need to look at the policies that exist and how do they need to undergo a change with the change that I'm trying to bring in now. And then, of course, at the bottom of it is always the people, right? So when you have a transformation projects running and multiple projects running within your organization, it touches right from the top leadership, who's kind of are the champions or in a way sponsors of that. So there is leadership, sponsors, managers, and then the employees in that hierarchy. And every transformation project actually goes and touches each one of them in that hierarchy, right? So it's important that the projects land with all of them being on the same page and understanding the impact, both from a transformation standpoint and from a people standpoint, right? So it becomes important that they all should understand what does change management means. And this is something that I realize a lot of time organizations say, okay, get a project manager who will program manage the project, and then get a change manager who will manage the change, and they will do this, all right? And those are the people who were only expected to know, understand the frameworks, the methodologies, and the approaches, right? But when I looked at it, I said, no, this can't work. I need the leaders and the sponsors also understand the fundamentals of how do you manage change in a structured fashion. And luckily for me, when I was getting certified as a black belt, GE had a program called Change Acceleration Program, right? That was mandatory for every master black belt to undergo, because it taught you how can you accelerate the change that you're trying to drive through that project or that transformation, right? So for me, it's important the leaders, the sponsors, and the managers and the employees, they all undergo structured interventions on how to manage change there, right? And see, there's another difference between GCCs and sometimes the third-party service providers. In GCCs, you have to manage a lot on sideways rather than just top to down, right? There is a lot of this sponsor coalition, functional leadership, functional technology interventions, functional resources who support you to land, say, order to cash change in your process, right? So that sideway management also, and the sponsor coalition management is an important aspect of change management and change landing successfully. Then sometimes I've realized that a lot of organizations also leverage change managers as externally contracted resources to do that. And I've seen the struggle there where the contract change managers take their own sweet time to understand the context and the culture of the organization, which kind of delays the success and the landing of the change to some extent. So my view is this capability needs to be inbuilt inherently within an organization also. You might still want to use a contract manager or change manager in your transformation journey, but if you as a leader, if you as a sponsor, if you as a manager and as an employee don't understand what change management means, chances are you will not be able to adapt and adopt that change very quickly. So building this muscle and this capability and competency within the organization is extremely critical in today's world, which is changing every day, to make sure that all your changes will land and will become adopted, adapted, and sustainable. It can't be a change that lands on day one, and then as you start getting into the BAU, you again have the disruption happening because people haven't onboarded themselves with that change. So that's how I think the project management organization is not just the only entity that needs to understand change. It is the entire leadership, sponsors, managers, and the people who need to understand what does change management means. And that's how, at least I'm trying to push that agenda. We've got like 60 odd people across program management, change management, operations, leaders trained on that. In fact, we did a sponsor coalition management intervention for our leaders also to help them understand what their role as a sponsor is going to look like as we embark on all of these transformation projects there. So that's my view. It's not just a project management thing. It's like organization, enterprise management capability.
It's much more than that, and starting from the top. So audience, you're hearing us. If any questions, you just heard about sponsorship, you just heard about change management, how it is to be landed in the GBSs. Any questions, please put in and we shall take it up. So as Gurmeet was speaking about sponsors and how to land the projects better and their role in it. So Carolina, you are working absolutely on ground and very much hands-on. So how do you think change management can enable managers and impact the employees in a positive way?
Absolutely. So let me maybe start from the fact that there are many researches available, for instance, delivered by Prosci, right? And there is one that is actually saying that only 1 out of 3 of people managers are actually ready, right, to lead people through change. And this really resonates to what Gurmeet said, right? Because it shows that on every level of the organization, if it's organizational part or individual or a teams or cross-function, there should be an awareness about how change management can accelerate, can help land the change, right? And what are the roles in this strategy of change management? And just maybe a side comment, Gurmeet, actually the maturity of change management is also on my radar in my organization. We're striving to increase that, but I can see the progress on that. So that's why I'm smiling, right? But coming back to people managers and being on the ground, hands-on. So how we are approaching this is that we really try to focus and laser tag the help needed for people managers in change, and also bring this awareness to sponsors, to leaders, to equip people managers with needed information, right? And as an example, I can give you a quick solution, like you can really establish a manager forum, for instance, when people are getting the most important information about the project, the update, what's going on and how it impacts their teams, right? So they can cascade this information down. Or we can provide them with a one-pager after the steer call, less operational items there, more, let's say, this change comms orientated part, right? And to help them to answer questions, to manage a little bit this resistance. And then you see it's going smoothly to employees, because when they see this kind of attitude and this kind of awareness that is cascading from the top, they feel much more comfortable in the change. They can ask questions that they may sometimes afraid of, like what's in it for them, or what does it really mean for the organization, how it is translated on the ground, right? So now we really go into like a simple but important part of every single employee that should be kind of a part of the change, right? Because in the end, every person who is impacted or affected by change is helping to deliver this change, right? And land it. So, so how the employees can act, they can start be more active rather than stay passive and a little bit more resistant, right? So they can create some kind of communities or even talk positively about the change during the breaks, during the meetings, etc. Right? So I'm not even saying about this change agents or change practitioners, which is also a practice in our company. But you know, I think everyone has their own let's say, environment that they can bring a really positive impact. So the change management is with the strategy, with the activities really tailored for the case and the department and the culture and what we want to reach can bring really great results down there on the earth where the change is actually delivered.
Great.
I can just add to
Yes,
that.
just add to that.
Tell me, Gurmeet.
When we started deploying this in our environment, right, we did a sponsor coalition session for our leadership there. But as we were moving on, we realized that the project managers, change managers are still struggling to make things happen faster, on time, within budget, right? And we went back and we said, let's just do an adkar analysis for our sponsor group itself and the leadership group itself. And we ended up actually showing our leadership group being red on that. We said, you went through the training, but you really are not still, you don't seem to have the desire. And then, of course, you're not doing enough on reinforcement, right? And that was like an eye-opening thing to them to say, yeah, okay, you guys have a structured framework and a tool and a technique which allows you to map what we are doing well and what we're not doing well. And then maybe guide us better to do this change management more effectively there. So that's where I told them, I said, listen, the change management as a science is more important than just as an art, right? So you might think that it's easy, but it's not easy. And sometimes a lot of work is involved, which you might think is probably a little bit of a stretch on my time. But if you do this in a structured fashion, you will realize the value it can bring to the table. So they've actually now all signed up. They said, okay, use one project each on which we are the sponsors and handhold us and guide us in terms of what role do we need to play as sponsors, as leaders, as managers in our teams to make this change land successfully. So to personally, I think I've seen a tremendous value in change management as a framework, methodology, toolkit to drive the change more effectively rather than just like, saying, okay, we'll do change management, right? It doesn't bring in the value there. I just thought I'd add that as an
Yes.
experience on leveraging
That's
power behind the framework itself.
absolutely, because you people are there when the rubber hits the road is when you are experiencing. So with that context, turning to the Prosci experts, so you're seeing the challenges the customer is really facing when the change actually hits them, how they bring the sponsor to actually, just do those things which the sponsor should. So and the managers need to be aligned, and then the employees need to be rightly guided. So from that point of view, Christoph, how do you think that the Prosci global network with our solutions can help and enable GBS in this fashion?
Well, you may say on one hand, GBS shared services are global organizations, but adoption happens on local level. And we can say that people who are impacted, they don't think I'm global. I'm here with my fears. I'm here with what is expected from me. And managers and sponsors, they also manage where they are. So we can say that the partner for GBS, for Shared Service Center for Change Management, should on one hand be global, but should be locally relevant. And also, I think, to be based on the same language, the same methodology. That's what you meant also before, what all of you were mentioning. It's very important. So basing our actions on methodology that is research-based, that is holistic, I think this is also a value. So we can say that Prosci is globally available now. So that's one part in all key locations for shared services, like in Americas, in Asia, in India, of course, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, China, but also in Europe, throughout many countries like CEE, Romania, Lithuania, any other that you would like to mention, Ireland. And it means that we can be locally relevant, being globally available. So I think this is one. Then second is that how we can contribute and what we can do. So sometimes what we do is to support key critical projects, must-win projects. So what we recently did, we can say ERPs, digital projects, reorganization, supporting in process optimization, various kinds of projects whenever our clients require some extra resources or temporarily. The second thing, of course, still what you, Gurmeet, mentioned, and Carolina, what you are doing is building capability. And also, yes, Prosci helps in this field. We are helping to build change management capability in organization, on organizational level, which means what you mentioned, Krish, before, to measure the progress of initiatives throughout the organization, not only one, to improve skills of and capabilities of sponsors, exactly what you said, Gurmeet, for running sponsors coalitions and project managers. So it could be done on corporate level. And also in this regard, we help to build change management offices or change management functional groups or communities of practice. And the third area, of course, is individual skill set. So we all agreed here that we need sponsor skills. We need project program managers skills and project team skills in change management, in delivering adoption usage. We need also people manager skills. We need individual contributor skills. And this is also what we build. So by global presence and local relevance, we can help on all those three levels, building capability and change management as a service, helping in must-win projects whenever it's needed, and also bringing up and leveling up the skills of those individuals who are critical.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Ed, in our audience today, I think we have a group of shared service and global business service leaders who are maybe in different phases of change management. Some may have, like, as we say, we do a lot of things which we don't call change management, but it is change management in some form and shape. Some may be like actually doing it with a structure. Some may be a little much in the building of capability stage. Whichever is the stage, Krish, to you, what is the must to do for a GBS at the current in change management if they are to start from, or if they pick up one or two things? What is the must do in change management for them?
So as I'm probably going to count upon what's already been said. And I'll pick on again something Gurmeet started off with. The biggest challenge in a GBS environment is enabling functions get left holding the metrics that they are chasing. I'm supposed to enable X to do something. X continues to do what they were doing, and I, who's measuring them, ends up getting measured by those numbers, right? It drives us all up the wall, and I would start there. I would start by defining the change management function. Christoph, you mentioned that, right? And Carolina's in that path where she's offering change management as a service. So I would establish change management as a specific function and say, this is my role, this is my identity, this is what I get, this is what I give, right? That's a starting point. And in that conversation, we also need to establish, for me to do this, you will do this, you will do this, you will do this. We need to bring that organization along. We need to bring the triangle along. Because the employee wants the manager to say something, the manager wants the leaders to say something, and it's going to be a challenge. So we need to make sure that the organization buys not into the change, but into the changing. The change is not the problem. Everyone loves the future state. Everyone loves the promise of change management, that it's a magic dust that you sprinkle on your project and the flowers will bloom. That's what they're listening to. And we need to tell them, no, no, no. There's a lot of shoveling work involved. There's a lot of fertilizer involved. There's a lot of stink of fertilizer involved. You'll need to get your dress dirty. You can't do it at a distance, right? So start there. Establish the function, establish rules, establish clarity on, we are going to do this with you, collaboratively, not isolatedly, but this is us, it's a partnership. So that's step number one. The step number two, from an agenda perspective, it's very important to not highlight a separate change management agenda. It has to be aligned to the 1,000 things that are happening in the organization. We cannot afford at this point to have a separate language for change management. And again, I'm going to bring in the cultural aspects over here. Both Carolina and Gurmeet brought it up, right? We cannot have a third aspect saying, well, here is another language in which we're describing the change, which is distinct from what you want, distinct from what we do. And in the meanwhile, there's agile playing, there's project management playing, there's other stuff playing. We can't afford that. We need to integrate change management into everything else the organization is doing. At least as a mental overload, we can't afford to do that. So that's the second piece that we need to. The third piece for me is, again, Christoph also mentioned it. It came up in both what Gurmeet and Carolina said. The only way to make this tangible is by connecting it back to projects. And the only way to make it measurable is connecting it back to projects. There's no way out of it. We cannot speak with the leadership team in terms of change management being an abstract quantity. No, it is not. It's about managing a change. And at the moment you say a change, you're talking about a project, you're talking about an end state, right? There's urgent need for change management to say, okay, here are 3 projects that we are a part of in this quarter. We're going to be using X amount of your resources in this form and shape and bring it into it. That needs to be a roadmap, right? If we don't start with these 3 big steps, then it is going to be a struggle. And that struggle is going to boomerang because we're dealing with tired organizations, right? Pre-COVID, post-COVID, we're dealing with organizations that have a mental overload of new ways to do old things. And everyone is being assured old things are not going to work. People are desperate for answers. And if you make the answers sound complicated, they're going to run away. So we got to tell them step 1, step 2, step 3, step 5. Don't worry, I'm there every step of the way. The complexity is going to sit with me, but I need your trust. I need you to work with me. I need time and your energy. The most important thing a leader brings into a change is organizational energy. And we need to tell the other leaders that I'm going to need this of you. Those in my head would be the must to create the role, establish the key needs of the role.
Yes.
That's number one. Make sure you're aligning with every other project, every other thought process that is happening in the organization. And then finally, make sure that you're landing this with specific projects. Back to you, Satish.
Yeah. Before taking up the questions, which something which Gurmeet had mentioned, and then some like putting this question back to Christoph and Krish once more, is that need of building this capability as an internal capability. There are a lot of things happening. Or technology bringing you. There will be external consultants coming, working, and going. So there is always a tendency that if something is required, it is an external party coming, working, and going. But what would be the right way to make change management? Because again, it takes a lot of time to know the organization before you actually start functioning, and change management is a must that you know it. So back to Christoph, as to how do you think this can be built as an internal capability? How can the organizations kind of really push that?
Yes, we went through a couple of projects like this, and of course, it starts with something which is significant for the organization, some strategic motive that is important to get supported, either one project or one program or a portfolio of projects. So I think that's always the starting point, because building change management capability just to build the capability is not the best idea, is not working. Of course, you can say it's nice to have, but you need to have urgency as always. So I think that's the first thing. Then, of course, important is to find sponsors. And even us as external consultants, I would say our job is to leave the organization in better shape that we entered.
Yes.
As it was when we entered. And that's building capability as well, which means we cannot build capability without having owner of this capability. Sometimes the owner is not the person who comes to us with the need. Sometimes this person also needs to pass it somewhere. And we need to help also to find such ownership, to build a coalition. Of course, we don't build a coalition. We just highlight, we just take a picture how it should look like. And we help those who ask us for support to build it as a directors, not as actors on the stage. But I think that's the second thing. And then, of course, you need to treat change capability building as a change project. You need to understand who is impacted and how. You need to, for example, form alliance with project management organization. Those people are busy already, and then they see other folks coming, asking them questions, utilizing their resources, and maybe overlapping whatever they will do. We don't know. So that's another very important ally that you need to find in the organization. And maybe one more thing I would like to share, which was a bit humbling experience, or very much humbling experience for me, is that sometimes you need to understand and agree that you will build capability in one place in the organization so that it can grow as a small plant, in a safe place when it's supported, and then you can put it somewhere else. So, for example, you can build this capability sometimes in people and culture area, in HR, and then you can put it towards PMO. So I saw such examples, and rather I thought it's better to build it initially where the money is, where the power is, but sometimes you need to start to build it when the heart for it is. And then when it grows a bit, when it shows the value, you can transplant it somewhere else. So these are the elements I would like to highlight. And I think our approach and what we really emphasize on is exactly that we build capability not to be in the organization of customer for years. Of course, if we are asked for resources, another story. But we build capability to come, help building it, and just leave owners with the value that they can pass and replicate in the organization further.
Krish, anything to add?
I'll just build on what Christoph said. Christoph said it beautifully. The two comments I would make is Prosci wants capability built, not just projects landed, but we want to build capability. We want this to be internal. We also face the duality of organizations that sometimes they want a change landed, but not the changing managed. Sometimes it's like, look, I'm flying the plane right now. This plane is nose diving. Take over my seat as a pilot. Don't stand behind me and tell me what to do. Just start flying the plane, right? So we recognize the fact that sometimes organizations just want that change managed and the project closed. We respect that, right? And we can do that, right? But exactly like Christoph said, it doesn't stick. It's not what we're trying to get done. What do we want? Eventually, we want the organization to be leaning into change. We want the organization, if you have a J curve, right? We're going well, and then the change comes, we dip, and then we climb again. We want to reduce that depth and increase the speed with which we go back up, right? That's what we're trying to do here. We want to go there. It has to be internal. It has to be a part of the organization's DNA. And once you make that decision, then as Christoph described, I mean, that going through that steps is exactly where you want to go. $1 million question is getting the organization to understand and make the decision. Making the decision, they do it surprisingly fast because, hey, sounds good, let's do it. And most of the shared services organization, GBS organization are very quick decision makers. People don't become leaders because someone threw a dart on the dartboard. They're good at very effective decision making, but they've not yet understood the implications of that. They have to put in a certain number of hours of their week to this, not just their numbers, but the next levels, right? So in my head, understanding that this capability needs to be built is a huge proposition. In the nicest way possible, I don't think capability building has been understood outside of certain functions. Or to put another way, functions that have built a capability know the blood, sweat, toil, and tears that go through it. Functions that have received that capability assume that, okay, I have to go for a training, right? We'll do it. And I think there's that understanding gap that has to be bridged before we go in here. But otherwise, I completely agree with what was said. Sudesh, back to you.
We are receiving a lot of questions, so I'll just open up to questions. So Gurmeet, like there has been somebody who's specifically asking you, okay, how do organizations stay agile and adapt to evolving global trends in the business environment during their journey from shared service to GBS space?
See, I'll hinge it to the topic that we're discussing here, right? If you are aware of what that change means, right, and understand what that change, how that change will impact me, my employees, my processes, my technology, my policies, chances are you will be more equipped to make that change happen in an agile fashion, right? So it's important that you understand the components of change management as a philosophy, as a framework, and as a structure. And I think that's what I was able to drive by bringing Prosci and Marg into that conversation for the organization to understand why this is important, right? And see, agile sometimes can also get badly misused. In name of agile, you start doing band-aid solutions, and then you end up deploying a solution that doesn't work, and then you're back to square one, right? That solution hasn't worked, right? So agile loses its credibility because that's what agile wasn't supposed to be, right? So it is important that you combine the agile way of thinking by understanding what the change is going to look like. How will this change impact? And then prepare for that change to land, right? Even when you do agile technology projects, you do these sprint runs to deploy test modules. But if you haven't understood how that module is going to make the person who's going to use that module react, how should he test it, and then comfortable with it, chances are you missed the point of being agile there, right? So that's how I see that having understanding of the change and the impact of the change can make you much more agile than you would be if you were just following agile as a framework.
Just one sentence addition to what Gurmeet said. People think of agile in iterative terms. They don't think in terms of incremental terms. It's iterative and incremental. And the incremental part, like Gurmeet said, is washed over, which means here is one. Got it? Okay, I'm going to come back, see you 3 weeks later and give you something else. What? And remember, the employee base we're talking with are now, this. Precision, accuracy is what they're chasing. Sorry, back to you, Sudesh.
So Christoph, Carolina, please feel free to add to the questions because we would need the participant get the most of it. So next one I'm putting into Carolina. How can organizations effectively balance the need for change and innovation with the importance of addressing employees' concern and ensuring their active involvement in the change process? Basically, organization patience is what we are talking for a change to an employee.
Absolutely. Patience and adoption, right? And thank you for the question. I think it's a very good one because I think many companies are having this kind of challenge, I would say. So from my perspective, what I could advise is definitely really look on the change saturation and to find a way to measure that, right? To make sure that the change fatigue is not going beyond what the capability, what the organization is able to adopt. And apart from that, of course, to be impact-driven, the proper planning, which what Krish said should be kind of attached to agenda of all organization, right? How we plan change is very important. On top, I would add to really focus on building capabilities exactly in people managers, because this is where the DNA always starts, like to really make this change constant, as Gurmeet has in the LinkedIn description. I was like, oh, that's something that it's a very right. So just to really live the change, we have to embrace it and provide proper resources to handle the change as well, right? To really think on what kind of risks or what kind of aspects we can really secure to start from the high sea, right? Not to create this this impression of being tired of the next change which is coming, but rather being excited, right? And the last one, I think everyone should focus on excelling communication, not to leave it only project-based, but to make it change-based, right? So this change comes, it's a little bit different. It's more into people and explaining them in a broader language than a technical one that project came, right? With what projects are came. Yeah.
I can quickly add, because I saw another question, somebody asking about the impact of AI on the workforce and job losses, right? So it's not about, how do you bring AI and other such technologies as an innovation to the organization context, right? It is also about helping, what does this change will mean? What will be my employees be worried about? What are the questions that are playing on their minds? If you understand that and you understand the impact of that change, of the innovation and the technology that's driving the world today, you are better enabled and you are able to handle that change in a much better fashion and help your employees adopt that technology, adopt that innovation also well, right? At least I haven't seen any technology that really made humans irrelevant or redundant, right? Typewriters were taken over by, say, tablets and stuff like that, but a human still has to write a letter. Of course, now you can use AI to draft a letter, but who's going to make sure that that letter is drafted well by the AI engine? It is conveying what I'm asking it to convey, and hit the send button. You still need that human being. Of course, hitting the send also can be automated, but you still need some human intervention to make sure that whatever the AI is generating and giving it back to you is of the value that the stakeholder or the customer or the consumer is going to be looking at, right? So it's all boils down to saying, what is the change? How does it impact people, right, at the end of the day? And then deciding, how do I want to manage this? And how do I want to adapt to the changing world that we see around us every day?
Sorry, I'm again going to do this. I just always add something to what Gurmeet said. I just want, since you mentioned AI, I think change management can help leadership transitions in AI organizations also. I'm going to throw that in.
Okay, we'll take the last question, and Christoph and Krish, you can pitch in for this, and Gurmeet and Carolina, please feel free with the practical aspect of it. Is how important are the change agents in transformative projects, and how do we engage and motivate them?
Yes, I think this is exactly what Carolina mentioned about people managers. They should be first change agents. I think sometimes we try to involvement into the change with placing this somewhere else, with picking up people from their teams and trying to use those people as change agents. I think this is not an effective approach. So first, we need to align all people managers to be on board. But yes, in fact, they don't have enough time. They are not enough equipped also to bring knowledge and abilities of people. Sometimes they are not enough equipped also to build desire on everyday basis. So that's why change agents, in the understanding of they are people who are peers to those who who are impacted by the change. This is really a great idea. I think there are 3 elements of successful change agent network building. First is to choose the right people, not those who want only, not those who are pointed out by others only, but those who are good communicators and those who are reliable for their colleagues in terms of the content,
Yes.
the job, the work. The second thing is to prepare a program for them and help them to onboard, to build their also desire for performing this role, not just so that they will get for themselves something, but they will give for others, so that they are really active. And it means that there should be also some resource in project team that is taking care, some person who takes, who has the time to drive it, to navigate it, because my observation is that over the time, no more than half or even 25% of change agents are active. So I think that's the second thing. And then third thing, to get their alignment with their line managers, whoever their direct boss is it a director, is it a supervisor, it's important that this change agent is okay and is well grounded in the team, which means that the people manager, the supervisor of this person is okay with having and supporting such a person. So I think those three elements are crucial, and absolutely change agents are superpower in and boosting exactly change management efforts. And I think also, last but not least, it helps also to build sustainable change. And I think sustainable for GBS, for shared service, does not mean it will be forever like this. No, it means sustainable changing things and still leave people energy for that, still leave people space for getting engaged and not getting tired, what was mentioned many times. Thank you very much.
Krish, anything to add? We are overshooting time now.
Sorry, just a short couple of comments. In addition to what Christoph said, I would be a little nervous of using change agents in place of people managers in the long run, right? For two reasons. One, again, shared services, GBS world, roles are very important. Your role in a process is very, very important. Clarity on that is very, very important. Much of communication happens electronically. You don't have the benefit of working with the groups directly face-to-face with. And in that context, who you are, what your email signature makes a lot of difference, right? So in that context, if you overuse change agents, and you're going to leave people managers scratching their head saying, okay, so who's talking about the change and whose change is this? And am I for it or not? You're going to create that dissonance, and you want to be careful about it, right? So I would prefer an and solution and not an or solution. But go where you need to go, absolutely, perfectly fine. The other part, I like the way Christoph said, it's a superpower. It is a superpower because it's going to take some effort to maintain, right? You got your kryptonite, and one of those kryptonite for this superpower is I have other jobs to do. I have 1,000 other things to learn. So yes, for this project, I'm very, very enthusiastic, and I'm a change agent. Don't keep coming back to me. Could be a problem. You could also have managers saying, what is that guy doing? That person is supposed to be doing his day job, and the person is going off for your meetings 10 times a day. What's happening? So keep in mind that we have to make sure that this change management takes change management. That body, that role needs a sponsor, needs someone saying, this is the agenda. This is what we're going to do with it. At some level, again, back to shared service GBS world, it needs to connect with career growth. It needs to connect with the competency map, right? So there's a lot of structure that's involved. And I think it's very important to build that structure in as you create that body called change agent.
And maybe only I would add that we should not forget about the recognition, right?
Yeah.
Because it's always something.
Celebrated.
Yes, that it's very welcome. And what Krish, you were saying, I think that the perception of leaders and project managers very often is that they don't perceive the change agents as additional work, because it's actually a lot of work around what the agents are bringing and what they have to do to make things happen. So if there are any sponsors and project managers there and activating some change agents, please bear in mind that it's a hard work in the end, right? To make an impact, and it should be planned accordingly in their schedule, in their agenda.
Yeah, it will be another layer in the capability building for sure. So we've overshot by 9 minutes, and I'm so glad that 65 of you are still around. So thank you very much for coming in, and I hope this was a good use of your time. What we can promise is this is the first of the many to come for this industry. We plan to do a series on this, and you will be soon notified on that. I just remember one of my favorite quotes is that the greatest danger of turbulence is not turbulence itself, but to approach it with yesterday's logic. So I'll urge you to adopt, to give yourself the gift of the change management capability, and your organization also the change management capability, and face 2024 headstrong. So wish all of you a great 2024. Thank you so much. And if you need any help, there will be a Prosci partner who will be very close to you. Otherwise, reach us and we shall connect you to Prosci or the correct Prosci partner. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Have a great day to everyone.